Hello, Budapest. Greetings to all the HUSTEF participants. This is so great to be back on stage, right, on the HUSTEF conference after 2 years. It's my pleasure to be here and to talk about the DevOps challenge in 5G. My name is Szilárd Széll, and I'm here from Eficode. So probably many of you knows me, but I also hope there's a lot of people who I have not met, so a lot of new participants on HUSTEF conference. So I've been working in the telco industry for 19 years, and after that I joined Eficode, which is a lead lead DevOps consultancy company up here in the Nordics. My job is being a transformation lead on DevOps, specifically focusing on the telco area. Today, I will talk about how to approach DevOps in 5G in the telecom industry. What does it mean for the testers, and where do you need to focus on as a testers? This talk is not only specific to telco, but you can reuse this in any area where you have multiple software suppliers working together, and when development and operations are actually in a separate company. So let's start with the talk. Our agenda will be a little bit of talking about the challenges of 5G, talking about DevOps a bit, 5G DevOps, so focusing on the specifics of DevOps in 5G, then a little bit about acceptance automation and the testing needs there. And then I would like to give a view on what is the best team topology in this 5G DevOps way of working. And in line with that, what is the best knowledge and skill set that people need. So let's jump into it. So 5G is a new technology. 5G is something that will give us new ways of communication. It is giving a big, promise of 10 times, 100 times more download speed, as well as extremely low latency, so very fast communication. It's also giving a wide range of machine-to-machine communication capabilities. Now, this is built based on new technology stacks. This is built on cloudification, containerization, if we talk about, for example, the core network, but also parts of the radio network will be cloudified. And all these improvements, the direction, are giving a chance to do different way of working, to actually apply agile and DevOps implementation. But this is also giving a big challenge of the challenge for the communication service providers, CSPs, because they need to work with the new technology stack. They need to work with cloud, they will need to work with virtualization, with containerization, even edge cloud, when actually the cloud itself, the cloud computation power is very close to the edge of the network, meaning close to the radio and close to the handset. Now, this is a challenge in the 5G race. Also, if we look the other viewpoint of DevOps, which is actually, DevOps is always delivering value to the end users. And here, the 5G related communication service providers needs to build an ecosystem that they are able to open up for new business-to-business partners, for new developers. And actually, this ecosystem is also giving the challenge that how do you do that? How do you onboard new software to provide new services? In the telco, typically there's a bit of a legacy mindset because the focus is on risk assessment, risk mitigation rather. So focusing on changing the network as low as possible. Now that mindset might be also a problem that we need to tackle with the DevOps. And of course, also the investment, currently we see that it's more focusing on end user. However, in the future, it should be more on business to business level. So let's see what is actually DevOps, just in a nutshell. So probably every one of you have seen this infinity loop, which is representing the continuous flow of value and the continuous feedback cycle to be able to see what to build next, what to develop next for our end users, for our customers. I like this view already because this is showing testing as a continuous manner here from Tricentis. But actually, I like this view much more, which is putting testing everywhere, because that's reality. Testing is part of every stage of DevOps. We do testing everywhere. We do testing during planning. Think of acceptance test-driven development when you discuss about the scenarios as an example. And that is your specification. And the whole team approach is there. Everybody is discussing them. So you have a common alignment. As a tester, it's extremely important to ask the right questions there and challenge, is this the right thing to build? And also, is it the right way to build that thing? Now, of course, we have the low-level testing, so all the shift-left activities in the pipeline, like code checking, code analytics, like CI/CD pipeline, a lot of unit testing, everything like that. And of course, a lot of testing when we release the software during deployment, but even in operation, during actually checking, monitoring the system, how it behaves. And we do testing in live, which is also you can call shift right. Sometimes you deploy something and see how it behaves, and you make a decision if you roll back, or maybe you need to make a quick deployment. So this is a much better DevOps view. Now, how does it look like if we put this into the multi-vendor telco DevOps environment, meaning that, for example, a telecom operator like Vodafone or Telenor is actually having multiple providers like Nokia, Ericsson, Huawei, building up their networks. So one company might have their own CI/CD pipeline, providing software to the actual network already maybe every 2 weeks. Another supplier have another pipeline providing software frequently, and another pipeline providing software frequently, and another pipeline, another pipeline, another one, another one, another one. Do you see the problem here? We just have multiple different pipelines, multiple DevOps channels from operator point of view, from the ops point of view. This is something unmanageable. This is something too big. So what you would like to see is more like a flower where you have the communication service provider in the middle and being able to onboard software from the different service provider in a centralized pipeline, in a centralized multi-DevOps pipeline. Now, if we open this up, how that looks like, we have the simplified DevOps pipeline just to represent the development, staging, and production environment, and of course, the feedback and visibility cycle from all the different stages, including production. Now, how does it look like if we go into, the DevOps in telco way? It is more difficult, right? It is more busy. We typically have development done in multiple teams. There is a product level integration cycle, probably within the teams, but here a product is integrated from the outcome of multiple teams. Then you might even have a solution integration phase when you integrate together multiple products into a solution. You have continuous testing here, continuous integration, continuous deployment, continuous everything. But from the vendor side, you also try, and that's the DevOps way of doing, have a continuous flow of value to the telco operator, to the ops side. First into a laboratory typically, where you have another check for the product typically, and then into if everything is okay, if the acceptance is positive, if the outcome of the acceptance testing is positive, then you can even go to pre-production. And we would love to see, according to the CI/CD, continuous deployment practices, to deploy this into production based on an automatic quality gate. Now, this might be in the future, but think of that even if your testing in laboratory can be done automatically, that's already a great step. Now, the important thing here is that you have one pipeline. Vendor and operator are connected together into one pipeline. Also, the feedback cycle is continued. You have fast and real-time feedback to capture that flow of value and to capture, any kind of response, quality assurance, and everything like that. So how does it look like if we even make the whole thing more complicated with bringing in the multi-vendor view? Now, you have multiple vendors providing maybe in different cycles software into the telco operator's work. And of course, that needs to be prepared to onboard software, to run acceptance testing, and give a feedback as quickly as possible, then actually integrating everything together as a service and deploy it into pre-production, then later on into production environment. Now, this is difficult. This is rather big. What are the different testing activities that we do here? So how do we have a continuous view of quality? So I would split it to two ways, because on one hand, we have the quality view focusing on the value, which is your product, right? But you generate value continuously to the end user. So value quality assurance. For example, in the plan phase, you have definition of ready, and you're checking against that. Definition of ready is like an entry criteria. Is my requirement good enough? Now you have code review, pre-commit tests, unit tests, right? Static code analysis, quite a lot of low-level testing. You also have build integration test, system testing, and then, for example, during releasing, you can have entitlement check, which might mean that, for example, you are checking against different export rules even, that is this a software possible to be used in that country? That's also important compliancy and quality assurance. Now, on the acceptance part, you have acceptance test and, of course, regression testing on the operator side. While during deployment, you might do only a health check, like a quick testing, like a smoke test. And of course, in operation, you do measurements of the system on all the different quality KPIs. And then, of course, you monitor how your system behaves after the change. Now, looking into the process quality and actually how your teams behave, how your product behaves, how your process behaves. Sorry, how your process, so not the product anymore. For example, you can look into queue size. We are talking about lean, right? We need to have small batch sizes. So that's an important thing to look into. We can look into cycle times. We are able, for example, can look into the number of status resets, like what was the task that we didn't understand and had to go back. But we look into technical depth, execution times, code coverage, cycle time, requirement coverage, statistics, cycle times, checklist violation. So a lot of things you can check already automatically to see how your process behaves. Now in production, in operation, you can check mean time between failure and mean time to recover, two very important serviceability KPIs. Now this gives you a high-level quality view, as said again, continuous quality, both on your service and on your processes as well. Now, if you're looking into DevOps topologies, so what are the best way to serve our customer? What are the best topologies, team topologies to work in DevOps? If you know some, we have topologies that work in different companies. So for example, having DevOps and Ops moved together, having a bit of overlapping, so they understand each other's work. Dev can reuse a lot of operations scripts like infrastructure as a service script, infrastructure as a code. And also Ops can reuse a lot of, for example, testing scripts from Dev and test keywords to run their own task. Now, some companies say that actually dev and ops needs to be totally overlapped. So it's actually one team. There is nobody who is only dev or only ops. Now, this might work in smaller companies, probably not in a big size as a telco. Some areas where DevOps is a specialized team within dev, actually, focusing on serving the ops and focusing on automation. This is also a topology that works. Now, what we see working best, because our dev and ops are in different companies, dev is the software supplier, ops is the telecom vendor, that there's a special team, collaborative team, built from people from both companies that are working together to build the pipeline and to have the continuous flow of value on one hand, and on the other hand, the continuous flow of feedback. So if you put that into our multi-vendor telco DevOps pipeline, that would look like having a vendor dev team, having the DevOps support team, and the operations team. And with the other vendor, it might be another DevOps support team serving, the focus of acceptance testing and also delivering, deploying those software from the vendor. As you see, there's a lot of overlapping, so the teams can share a lot of work, a lot of assets, a lot of knowledge. They can share tools, they can share automation practices, they can share knowledge collaboratively working together. So it's extremely important that working in this DevOps team, you are actually skill yourself up. I've also seen joining Eficode how much my skills were focusing too much on methodology, too much of processes, and there was a bit of luck on technology. I had to learn a lot on test automation myself, robot framework, Jenkins. I started to learn a lot on infrastructure as a code, Ansible, other areas. Now, if you are part of a DevOps team, you need to have, of course, the domain expertise. You need to know what is your domain, what is the risk there. As a tester, it's extremely important that you understand what could go wrong, right? Now, you also need to have the dev test expertise. You need to be a developer or a tester, but also you need to be able, as a tester, to develop, right, automation code, but as a developer to test. You need to be able to create a lot of automated testing on multiple layers of testing. So even on system test level, high level functional or acceptance test level. So DevOps, dev test expertise needs to be there. Now you need to have a lot of technology knowledge related to cloud native technology, containerization. I would say Amazon, but for example, in the telco industry now, it requires that you are extremely good also in edge cloud and you understand what edge cloud gives to you. You also need to understand how to roll out software to multiple areas, to maybe hundreds or thousands of different data centers. So having this in an agile team is extremely hard. Oh, by the way, you of course needs to understand the methodology as well. So you need to have lean knowledge, you need to have DevOps knowledge. But nowadays, when we say that DevOps is extremely focusing also on usability and service design and design for the humans, you need to have the UX knowledge as well. So what do you need? You need a comb-shaped skill set in a good DevOps teams. Now, this is pretty hard to create, actually. This needs a lot of expertise, but this needs also continuous learning, which is why we are here today. So with that, I would like to go through the takeaways. So DevOps is the capability to deliver customer value faster and at a better quality. So this has a place in 5G. The 5G challenges are addressed by DevOps. Continuous release, acceptance, orchestration, and automation needs a special 5G DevOps pipeline with, that is spanning across the vendors and the telco operators. Tight collaboration is required, so a new organizational model topology is needed. And also the agile teams need to be skilled up to have the comb-shaped full stack competencies in place. So with that, I would like to thank you very much for listening to my talk, and I'm ready to answer your questions. Thank you very much. And some further readings available on our website. Thanks a lot.